Hi, I'm Kelly Jones here with a healthy eating tip, and today we are going to go back to the food label and we are going to look at polyunsaturated fats. Polyunsaturated fats are essential fats. That means that our body cannot make them. We have to consume them through foods. Now there's two different kinds of polyunsaturated fats. There's omega-3 fatty acids and omega-6 fatty acids. And unfortunately, on the food label, you won't be able to distinguish which one is which unless you look at the ingredient list, and that will clue you in on what type of omega fat is in that product. So let's talk about omega-3 fatty acids. The best food sources for those are cold water fish, that would be salmon, trout, herring, sardines. And then also there's plant sources, so things like flax. You can do flax oil or flax seed. You can do chia seeds, hemp seeds. You can also eat nuts, like walnuts are high in omega-3. Eggs, if you buy omega-3 rich eggs, that means that the chickens were fed a diet rich in flax meal. And then the last area would be cruciferous vegetables, in particular Brussels sprouts. So the really great thing about omega-3s is that they are anti-inflammatory, or they fight inflammation. The type of inflammation they're fighting is what we call chronic or systemic or low-grade inflammation. It's throughout our whole bodies, and it just kind of sits there and gels over time, and actually has come to be known as the beginning stage of almost all chronic modern diseases. So getting your omega-3s is a very health promoting type thing to make sure that you're eating. Now the omega-6s, probably the best sources would be things like sunflower seeds, let me check my list, pumpkin seeds and walnuts. But you can also find omega-6s in grains like corn and other grains, other plant foods, and you can also find them in the meat of livestock that have been fed a grain-fed diet. Now, omega-6s, like I said, are essential. We need to take them in, and when they're in the right proportion, especially in relationship to the omega-3s, then they are very good for our bodies. Unfortunately, we consume far too many omega-6 fats in comparison to omega-3s, and what that ends up doing is it ends up being inflammatory to our body. So instead of being like the omega-3s that fight chronic systemic inflammation, they actually promote inflammation. And as I said, that's the beginning stage of most chronic disease. So let's talk about that proportion. Back in the day when there wasn't packaged foods and our ancestors were eating whole real foods, they were eating more of a 1-to-1 ratio. So they were eating as many omega-6 foods as they were omega-3 foods, and that was very healthy for them. The standard American diet these days has that ratio of 6 to 3 being more like 20-to-1. So that is way out of proportion. Now, it's not because we're eating too many pumpkin seeds or walnuts. It's because we are eating far too many what they call industrial plant and seed oils, or vegetable and seed oils. So that would be things like corn oil, canola oil, safflower, sunflower, soybean oils. Now those oils are oils that don't cost very much to make, and so they're very widely used. People cook with them. Restaurants use them to cook their foods, and they're in the majority of these packaged and processed foods. Now, what makes them detrimental to our health is the way they come about, the processing that brings them to market. So you take the plant, and the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take the part that you're going to make the oil from. So let's say seeds. You extract the seeds, and the first step is to heat them up to a very high temperature. Heating them up to a very high temperature creates a byproduct that's harmful to our health. Then a solvent is added, and typically it's hexane, so that in that process of getting the oil out, they can extract as much oil as possible. So there's the first time chemicals are added. Then chemicals are added so that they can deodorize the oils because they don't smell so good coming out of this hot process. And then the last place, the third time they add chemicals, is for the actual color of the oil, so it's eye appealing. So you can see that these oils are very far away from their natural plant that they came from, and our bodies have a hard time knowing what to do with them, and that's why it creates this inflammation that leads to disease. So just to give you an idea of what some of those diseases might be, or I should say health conditions, there's asthma, autoimmune disease, mental health issues, including depression, anxiety, dementia, and Alzheimer's. We have diabetes, obesity, heart disease, gut health and GI conditions, infertility, macular degeneration, and osteoarthritis. So you can see that these vegetable and seed oils are wreaking a little havoc on our overall health. So what can you do about it? Well, there's a couple different things. One of them would be to start taking a look at the products that you're consuming that are in packages. Go down to the ingredient list and look to see what is in this product that is making up the numbers under polyunsaturated fats. So in this case here, it's safflower oil, one of the oils I had listed. So you can start scaling back on the amount of food that you eat that has these unhealthy oils in them. The other thing that you can do that's just as important, if not more important, is up your intake of omega-3 foods. So I'm going to challenge you this week. I'm going to give you a list of foods, and I want you to pick a couple of them, and I want you to find a way to incorporate them into your weekly meals somehow, some way. So those would be salmon, trout, herring, sardines, flax oil or flax seed, chia seeds, hemp seeds, walnuts, omega-3 rich eggs, or Brussels sprouts. So take a couple of those, like I said, incorporate them in your day or in your week, and find a way to do that on a repetitive basis. So I hope this was helpful to you, and we will see you next week.